Welcome to Holly's Pandorium, featuring your host, psychic medium Holly Jordan.
Hey everybody, we're back. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium, and I have a new guest today that I have not spoken with before, and I'm very excited to hear his stories. This is Rod, and he has his own podcast called Lodge Tales, so I'm hoping he'll talk some more about that later. But welcome, Rod. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So you want to start by telling us your introduction to the paranormal or some things that have happened to you with the paranormal?
Oh, sure. I guess I'll introduce myself first in our way. I mean, I kind of like to introduce myself in the Blackfeet way just because it's part of who we are, and I like to kind of share the culture where I can. It's an excuse to share the culture. So, anyways, I'll translate when I'm done. Oki niksokwe nitaniko xistaki otokan. Nimtoto Upscapi Picani, 6 weeks. So my name is Rod, and I'm from the Blackfoot Confederacy. Specifically the Southern Picani is my band of the Blackfoot Confederacy. And I have this podcast that I started, which shares Native American ghost stories and, personal experiences with the paranormal. And it's geared, as far as the guests, toward just Native Americans, right? That's our platform. And it's not to be divisive or anything like that. It's actually meant to include more Natives, give more of a voice to us, and share these types of stories. So that's who I am in a nutshell, I guess. And thanks.
Well, that's great. I love that. I think that's a voice that's very dimly lit still. So between you and some of the other people I know in your situation, I really feel like it's a voice that we need to have and expand on. So that's great. So how long have you done your podcast?
I want to say I've been doing it now 3 years, roughly. Yeah.
That's great. So do you just cover things that have to do with your culture, or are you talking about whatever people are experiencing? What kind of stories do you guys talk about?
So we cover everything from these spirits, cryptids, the Star Nation. I mean, like aliens, stuff like that. To little people. I mean, it's a lot. And see, the reason why there's some culture that kind of tends to bleed into our stories is because we're telling that story through our lens, through the spiritual lens that we kind of live our lives with. So it helps to kind of, because everybody always tries to make sense of their paranormal experiences. So
Right.
we're just trying to do the same thing, but it comes out through our culture and how we view the world and the universe at large,
Right.
Mhm.
I think that I've noticed anyway that most people that I encounter um, are believers in the paranormal when they become an experiencer, and that there's still a healthy skepticism for most people, but that seems to be the divider between a lot of folks, is that once they've experienced whatever, something, either a ghost or um, a Sasquatch or whatever, something, then they start to feel like, well, maybe other things are possible. Have you noticed that with people?
Yeah, I have. There's like what I've noticed goes kind of now. This is my take on it, right? Now this goes back to when you were really young. Um, so in the Blackfeet way, if you are in a traditional family and you're raised traditionally, because not all natives in my tribe and all tribes, that not all of them are traditional followers of our old ways. Well, anyways, like the ones that let's see, how can I say this? Like, if you're brought around it, things start to happen. Um, First, you're told, and I'm just paraphrasing here. First, you're kind of
Sure.
told, all right, you're unique, right? You're unique, and everything that we have here is very unique. Um, and so you're kind of given that in a not so, forceful way. It's real subtle. You're kind of given that, you're realizing that this is really unique. And then at one point, something else happens. You say, well, if this is all unique, then everything is. The universe is unique. We you know, we have ways about the universe that influence us, that directly influence us. So you start thinking about everything in your life being unique that's surrounded by you. See, because you go into these ceremonies and you'll hear a spirit speak. That's unique. Things
Right.
like that. So you start really forming this opinion in your mind, and then something happens where you have an experience. It could be a paranormal experience, it could just be an epiphany, something. You have some kind of an experience where you realize, hey, this is real. Like this is real, and you start to open up more with it, like become more receptive to it. And finally, eventually everything ties together with a story. Then you're given this story which unites everything, creation stories,
Right.
why certain spirits are the way they are, this, that, and the other. So this whole transformation takes place over your lifetime. Now, the ones that don't have any sort of spiritual guidance are the ones that are going to be lost. They're the ones that are going to always be yearning for something because they didn't have that. It wasn't there. They didn't have this unique spiritual experience that they knew they could count on. It was never there for them. So these are the ones that are searching. These are the ones that I'm very aware of because I would not want to be in their spot. I think it's a really unfortunate place to find yourself when you were never given guidance, especially if you're a reconnecting native and you don't know anything about your tribe, but you
Sure.
desperately yearn for that. Those are the ones I kind of have in mind with that because that's, I think,
Sure.
a really,
No, that makes a lot of
unfortunate place.
sense. That makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. I think
Mhm.
that that speaks a lot to just the idea that if you're open to things because you're taught to be open to things, if you're not taught to be closed-minded, you tend to see more, feel more, sense more. It becomes easier. I do feel that children are more open in general. I feel like kids tend to be very receptive to things that they aren't familiar with. They're not as closed-minded as adults. Um, can you think back to an experience at any age and tell us some of the things that you've personally experienced?
Yeah. Okay. So my first paranormal experience really changed my life at a young age. I was about 6 years old, and across the creek from where I grew up at was my uncle's place, and it was a cattle ranch and a horse ranch. My family were ranchers, so my dad would go over. My dad and my mom would go over, take us kids, and we'd. That's where we grew up. We'd spend a lot of our time over there because they were helping with the ranch and things like that. Well, they would stay into the night on weekends sometimes, and, they would be, you know, partying and stuff like that after a hard day's work, hard week's work. And so it was one of these nights, and all the adults were in the kitchen, and I was in the little one-bedroom ranch house that my uncle had over there, and all my sisters were in there my older cousins. They were the ones that would take care of me. I was the youngest one there at the time, and I was a really curious kid. I like to, explore, adventure, things like that. I'm sure most kids like that, but being on the res with a 10 square mile playground, yeah, you really get to live that up. But um, so as this night progressed, I heard all the adults sounded to me like all the adults were running out the front door. You have a kitchen, you have a living room, you have a bedroom, and a bathroom right off that bedroom. That's all the house is. It was really small. And so you can hear everything, and I heard these footsteps stampeding out the front door. Well, when you open the bedroom door, the front door is straight ahead of you. And before my sisters could stop me, I open that door and I just run straight to that front door. I see it already open. I jump off that porch and I'm looking to my right. And then I square up to that side and I see what my uncles are doing. They're all standing on line, and there's like five of them or so, but they're standing on line and they're yelling toward the horse trailer. There was a horse trailer right by the tack shed and that little corral that was around there where they would buck the horses out and stuff. There was a tack shed there, and the horse trailer was right next to it. Well, that's where the attention was that they had. They were yelling over there. They were saying, "Go away, get out of here," things like that. And I thought they were, maybe chasing a bear away or a coyote, wild dog, something. And I didn't know what it was. So I'm scanning the area too, looking, and it's quiet out there. It's like 15 miles out of town. It's really quiet, and you got to drive about 2.5 miles up a dirt road just to get there off of irrigation canal. Well, I can hear above my uncle and them. They're yelling. I can hear above them over that way. I hear these old men, and they're speaking Blackfeet. You know, they're speaking our language, and there's many voices there. I can hear a lot. So I'm looking all over the ground, and all of a sudden my eyes drift up to the top of that horse trail, and there's about 7 or 8 owls, and they're all speaking Blackfeet. Now, as a 6-year-old kid, you gotta kind of realize that rocked my little world. I didn't understand that animals could talk like that,
Yeah.
let alone sound like old men. I mean, what was that? Today
Right.
I still look back at that, and I could still feel the confusion I had as a little kid, like, What?" You know? And anyways, as the owls were speaking, my uncles were throwing rocks at them, hoses. One of them even looked like he was pulling out his pistol, it looked like. And just then, that's all I got. I got jerked back in that house. My mom grabbed me by the back of my uh, coat there, or shirt, whatever I had on, and jerked me because
Mhm.
it hurt my neck. I remember that.
Yeah.
Like, she must have been scared because she's like, "Get in that house. What are you doing out here? You're not supposed to be out here."
Right.
And that's all I remember about it. So in our way, the owl is just the messenger, right? That's why he gets a bad name. That sleepy stew, he always brings you like news that you don't want to hear. He's like warning you about things, and so people are scared of him. They don't. And I know a lot of non-natives don't know about a lot of native media, but here's this series called Reservation Dogs, and if
Yeah,
you're
I've seen it.
interested, check out
Yeah.
Reservation Dogs. You'll see whenever they show an owl in there, they'll
Yeah.
have their eyes blurred out.
Yes.
It's so funny that the humor of that just makes me
It
laugh, and
yeah,
that's
it's
what it's
awesome.
touching on.
It's awesome.
Mm,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. I thought that was pretty cute when I saw that.
yeah, so that changed my life. That right there made me
Did it?
realize, even at that young of an age, it made me realize that, all these stories I hear these adults talking about these spirits, and they're talking about them in a way, now I know it's real.
Yeah.
Because when you're a kid, you hear it, then it just goes right out the other side and you go play. It just sits somewhere in the back of your mind. You don't even think about it. But here we are. A little kid was thinking about things like that once upon a time. Still do to this day. Okay, so let's look at that. So going back,
Mhm.
because they bring this message to you, what they were doing was warning our family of hard times about to hit us, because my my grandpa had lost his wife, and our
Mhm.
family fell apart. She was a glue that held us apart. I mean,
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
One of my uncles lost his wife and a daughter. Another uncle lost a wife. Another uncle ended up getting divorced. Their family fell apart. Everybody that was there that night, everything fell apart. And I think that's why there were so many owls there that night. They were waiting to, I mean, they were trying to warn everybody, and nobody was in their right mind, the adults. They were
Yeah.
inebriated, so they just chased them away.
So I'm
And
curious, at that moment, if you can put yourself back in that moment for just a second. You said that you heard them speaking
mhm,
Blackfoot. Do you remember any of the words that they said?
I don't, and I've tried to recall them, but really what I was hearing was, like, imagine you're hearing voices in the wind, like you're catching bits and pieces of it,
Right.
but you're not catching the whole thing. You're just, and that's how it
Get
was.
getting
Like,
fragments.
yeah, like like hayo kin spomoke gimoke. That's like as I was hearing it, it was like that. It was like
Wow,
real quiet coming through the wind, just slowly, like faintly
interesting.
to my ears. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
crazy you can
amazing.
remember something like that at that young of an age. I've thought about that too, and I thought, there's the only way I think I remembered that was just being in utter shock, just
Oh, sure.
totally I couldn't believe what I was seeing or hearing.
Oh,
Right?
sure. I mean, that whole situation was shocking. What first of all, what were the grown-ups doing? Kids are naturally curious, so running outside makes complete sense because that's what are they doing? Why is everybody yelling? What's happening? That totally makes sense. And then to hear voices that you're not familiar with, of course you're going to look around and go, "Who's talking?" It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. So, yeah, the whole scene had to be a little overwhelming, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
See, those
definitely.
owls, they're those ones that we seen that night. Let's just be really clear here. They were spirits. You know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that those owls. They weren't a physical thing. I couldn't. I suspect if we threw a rock and it would just go
right.
right through them. Those
Yeah,
were spirits because the physical owl, it don't speak, but their spirits do if they
right,
want to.
right. No, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. I think that sometimes when we interact with spirits, we're always surprised that they don't sound like a human voice, and how could
Mhm.
they? They have a different means of sending a message. Their way of communicating is not our way. It's different. And I think when you're able to slow yourself down enough to actually listen, that's a real treat. That's a real gift to be able to hear what's going on. So, have you heard more spirit talk since then? I mean, what is
Yeah.
your life going forward? What happened with you in the paranormal? What have you discovered in the paranormal?
So in the paranormal, I mean, ultimately, I've realized that it's all about. Now, this is where I think Star Wars got it right. It's all about life force, because
Yeah,
life force is in everything, or you can call it spirit is
right.
in everything. So uh, everything natural. But let's clarify that.
Okay.
That's not to say we can make objects and a spirit will kind of attach itself to that. That can happen, but in nature there are natural things all over in the universe that have a spirit like us.
Mhm.
And I'm talking everything, you from every planet to every star to every geez, even after a rainstorm here on Earth, just a little mud puddle has suitapis in it or water spirits. There's life force in everything. And we're largely blind to it. We don't realize that this life force is all around us and we don't care about it. And it shows because people don't understand what it is. So, for instance, when I'm sitting here, Holly, say I'm thinking about you, and I'm thinking about you, and I'm wishing good upon you, right? I'm wishing all this good. Well, what's happening there? What's happening is my life force is reaching out to yours, and it's attempting to transform your life force into a positive version of itself so that your physical body can then follow that spirit trail that it's blazing for you, right? So they're intertwined and they're together, and that's how everything is in the universe. Just as I'm thinking good about you, somebody's over there thinking hard about the next person and what's happening there. Their
Right.
life force is actively trying to tear apart the other person's life force. Thoughts travel. Our elders teach us this. They were very, very wise. They knew more about this world and this existence than I think we're ever going to figure back out again. And they were the ones that were big upon that, and it's still with us today. Like in a ceremony, you can't have hard thoughts in a ceremony because there the life force is amplified. There's so many spirits there that hear your thoughts, that are listening, that are present, that are just there. And they're
Yeah.
there to bless us, they're for the creator, they're his helpers. and they're listening to us, and we're doing everything we need to spiritually to do with them. But if you're carrying any sort of hard thought, that will travel and it will amplify and it will harm someone. So in order to be a decent individual, a responsible person, and you're in the ceremonial life, you don't think like that. You know that you don't do that, and it's one of the hardest tests those spirits will give you is to keep your mind clear of negativity. It's really hard because you're sitting here in a small community, 2,000 people say,
Right.
and there's about 30 that showed up for this ceremony, and we're sitting up there, we're blessing them. Say I'm the one painting them and taking their offerings. I'm going to put them out for them. Say I'm the one doing that. Well, this person in the past, and this is all fictional, say
Right.
he ran my dog over and stole my wife once upon a time. Okay, none of that has any bearing on what I'm doing right then and there. And
Right.
all of that has to be left outside the camp. That has no place in what we're doing there because that paint that I'm putting on that person is going to cause them to stand out in the spirit world. The spirits are going to notice that person. They're going to know that they've been marked in a good way, but that they'll stand out to the creator even. So the power of that paint and what you're doing, it has a lot of responsibility with it. And you can't deny anybody that comes to you because the creator put that person right there and he needs your blessing. So all
Right.
that goes away. All that goes out the window. None of that even matters. It's bigger than us at that point. And that's how we look at it. And it's a really tough thing to do. It's hard
I
to do that.
I agree. I agree. Science has shown that 40% of our daytime thoughts are about the past. And I've noticed that it is a vicious cycle. If you tend to focus and dwell on things that bring out resentment or anger or any feelings that don't involve passionate forgiveness and grace, it's like a boomerang. It comes right back. And the more peaceful and loving thoughts and the more kindness that goes out, the more kindness comes back. Um, I have been accused of being ridiculously happy, and even my husband will tell me, "You're one of the happiest people I've ever met." And it's like, it's not that I've not had an easy life. That's not a prerequisite. It's a choice. It's a physical decision and it takes energy and effort. But I've learned the hard way that I'm living in what I think about. So if I think about things better and kinder and in a more loving way, and if I connect myself with everything around me in a different way, um, I am so much more pleasant. I sleep better. I dream better. And my interactions with people are so much more complimentary. It's like what I put out triple fold comes back to me. It never stops amazing me how much kindness ripples in such a great way. That butterfly effect, that they
Yeah.
say.
Hmm.
Um, I'm amazed at how much just a conscious effort, and it isn't easy sometimes. There's times that I really struggle, but as I get older, it's a little easier because I've learned to pick my battles. There was somebody I just heard, I think it was a quote from Buddha somebody said recently that I heard, and it was, "Resentment is like feeding yourself poison and expecting the other person to get sick."
Yep.
And
Hmm.
I thought, "Hmm, that's really true. That's really true. It's poisonous. It doesn't do anybody any good." That's
Hmm.
wild. So, with your interactions with the paranormal, can you explain or talk about a little bit some of the variety of paranormal things that you've experienced?
Yeah. Before I do that, let me just kind of piggyback off of your last
Sure, sure, of
comment
course.
there. So I went to this outpatient, it was like a 1-day surgery that they had to do on me, and they had to use anesthesia. Everything turned out okay, but when they used that anesthesia, I, before going in, I totally envisioned, all right, it's gonna be dark, and I'll just wake up and go about my day, I guess. That's kind of what I'm thinking, expecting. So when the anesthesia hits, it hurts my arm, and that's all I remember is that milk-looking thing hurting my arm, and I grabbed my arm, and that's it. I wake up, I'm laying in a fasting circle. And in this fasting circle, the rocks they're all painted white, and they're all around me, and I'm recessed down a little bit, about the
Okay.
height of a rock.
Okay.
I'm recessed down below that, and the rocks are all around me like that.
Okay.
And I can hear I'm laying there and I'm looking up at this blue sky. There ain't a cloud in the sky, but there's light everywhere. It's light. And I could hear this huge encampment, huge, really huge. Like all the Indians that ever lived were there. That big, bigger than the oceans. It was huge.
Oh my goodness.
Unimaginable is how it was. And I could hear the laughter, the playing. I could hear horseback riders. I could hear men calling for feasts. I could hear children playing, dogs barking, women uh, just talking like, "Grab that pot." Yeah, I could hear all these things.
Wow.
And real close to me, though, like almost right next to me, I heard these old women. They were all talking. And at one point, when they were all talking to me, one of those rocks by my feet fell in. And I remember this younger lady, must have been about 35. She come around. She glanced at me and then took her eyes right off me and picked up that rock and put it right back where it's supposed to be. And the way she looked at me is the way we in the ceremony is that how we are. Like she looked at me like I was a spirit. Like
Oh,
I was one. Like when we look at us, like say I'm sitting there and I'm really praying, like say I'm in a
right.
sweat and I look up and I see one, I'll just
Right.
put my head back down and I'll keep praying. That's how
Right.
she looked at me. It's like
Wow.
they come here to visit us, but I was going there to visit them, and she looked at me like the way I look at them. It was really weird, but
Mm,
anyways,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
so what those old women were saying was they were saying, and they were referring to a nurse inside of that room with us. This female, they were referring to her, and they were saying, I don't know how they were referring to her. They didn't say her name, but I knew who they were talking about.
Right.
They said, and these people, they don't even know. Then another one would jump in. If they just realized that with their thoughts being so bad that they're harming themselves, and another one would jump in. They don't understand that these thoughts are coming back inside of them and manifesting into cancers and sicknesses. And another one would jump in and finish it's like they were all finishing the same sentence. And one would say, and if they just realized that if they wouldn't try to change things they can't control, they would live better lives, healthier lives. Instead, they worry about these things they can't change.
Yep.
And just then I knew I was going back because I could feel it. I was going back.
Right.
And that lady stopped. They were all talking and they already told me what they needed to tell me just
Right.
in time. By the time I was going back, it's like it was all planned. That lady said, you must tell them what we said, huh?" And I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, yeah, I will." And so when I came back, I knew exactly where I was at. I wasn't confused or nothing. I knew, and they were treating me like I was confused, and I wasn't. And so I came back, and I'm being wheeled out of that room, and this nurse, female and a male, were standing there, and I looked at the female because that's who they were talking about,
Hmm.
and I said, "I have to tell you something." And she was just like ignored me. She must have thought I was still loopy or something.
Right.
And I said, look, I really have to tell you something. There was these spirits that told me to tell you that you have to watch your thoughts, that you're worrying about these things you can't control and you're making yourself sick. They said just to live your life and not worry about the things you can't alter, and it'll be okay. And she half listened, but I remember that old lady asking me if I'd tell her. So I looked back at her because she wasn't really paying attention, and I reached for her hand,
Hmm.
and like her wrist was right there,
Hmm.
and I couldn't quite grab her hand, so I squeezed gently, and I said,
Hmm.
remember what I told you."
Hmm.
Then she looked at me like it was dawning on her, like, "Oh my
This was
God, really?"
specific. Yeah.
Yeah, it was for well, and then I come back, but with that one thing, even those spirits are telling us how
Yeah.
to avoid these hard thoughts, what to do
Yeah.
instead, what they want to see from us instead. So, I mean, it is a thing. It is there. Your thoughts do travel, and it's something that us natives are very aware of. So, what
It-
was the next question? I already
That's okay. That's okay.
lost my train of thought.
No, that was a wonderful story. I kind of wanted to get a feel for what types of paranormal things you have experienced, like uh, either, you know, bipedals, or you mentioned little people.
Hmm.
And I wanted to in particular talk about little people because I recently did a session as a psychic, and in it I've had a couple visions of little people in Washington state where I live. And I hadn't thought much about them. I've had a lot of exposure to Sasquatch here, and that's a common, subject to talk about and whatnot. And I've experienced elementals of many different types and, fairies a few times and a few things like that. But this was the first time I really saw and felt little people that were not midgets. These were something else. And the only thing that came to my mind was the word Minnehaha. And that's a Hawaiian term for little people. And they're not midgets, they're something else. And so what I saw reminded me of what looked like a small Bigfoot or a small Sasquatch running through the woods. And it was incredible. I mean, I get visions sometimes and they're like an action scene. It's like a movie in my head. I get these drops and then it was very, very vivid. So I'm very curious to hear about what your experience is with little people.
Yeah, so little people, they're a big part of our culture. We've had
Yeah.
relationships with them going back. Holy Jesus, like back around the times we got our holy objects. I mean, our just so everybody knows, there's so much misinformation out there, but just know that the native people of North America, we've been here for like a long, long time. And when I say long time, I'm talking our first holy bundle we got when the animals gave us control of their life force.
Mhm.
There's even a woolly mammoth tusk in there. There was
Oh,
even
wow.
an alligator representation in there. There's like a part of an alligator in there too.
Wow.
And these are old, old times, like old, right? Like they were still here. All of this megafauna was still here at the time. I
Wow.
challenge all you scientists, go back. Was there alligators in America? And how long ago? That's when we
Right.
got our first bundle. Do that research and you would know, because I haven't done it. I don't know. But
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's a long, long time. So I mean, they were the ones that took care of the tobacco for us in the beginning. They helped us with that tobacco. They were the best tobacco growers or ever. And we had tobacco societies based around the tobacco and the little people, because the people that got that first bundle, I just don't want to say what it is. I
That's
feel
okay.
like I shouldn't say exactly what it is, but
That's all right.
they're the ones that those little people would deal with, would because what they would do is they would make an agreement with the little people, because Blackfeet were nomadic. We followed the buffalo. We never stayed put, because that's not how you live a perfect life,
Mhm.
according to the creator, because you'll destroy the earth in one area. You got to keep moving so it replenishes itself. And that's what we did. So when we would leave, they would make these agreements with them, and they would just plant the seeds and walk away. And those little people would cultivate it all year until we went back that next year. They'd go back, and those tobacco men would go to those little people, and they would see that their plants were fully cultivated and just plush and just bountiful.
Hmm.
And so they would take them, and they kept this agreement for a long time until finally those little people, they took pity on this boy, and it's a really long long story. So in a nutshell, they took pity on this boy that wanted to go out and go on a war raid with them, and his uncle didn't want him there, and so his uncle tried to kill him. It's a big long story, but he failed, and that kid fell into that coulee, and he was laying there with a cracked skull, and he couldn't move, but he was still alive. And that
Mm.
bad uncle went and followed the rest of the men to go to battle. He was to bring that little boy back because that little boy was tagging along without permission. And
Mm.
his dad was the war chief, so he trusted his brother to bring him back. And he wanted to get so much war honors that he ended up killing his nephew because his nephew wouldn't go with him. So at least he thought he killed him. As he's laying in that coulee, he hears these coyotes coming, and he's thinking to himself, "Oh, I don't want to die like this. I don't want to be ate by them." And so when he sees one, he says, "Take pity on me." He says, when I was really small, he said, I used to play with you guys. I used to feed you. So take pity on me now. I need your help." And all of a sudden, those coyotes kind of parted a little bit, and here was this old coyote come walking up, and they were all looking at him, that old man coyote. And he said, "What this boy says is true. I remember him. When I was younger, we'd play with him in the coulees. I remember him. He's speaking the truth." And so he says, we're going to help him. And that little boy hears them. They're singing. They hear that old man. He's singing a song. And before long, that little boy starts moving. And he gets up and standing there. And he's like, how'd you do that? Because he's not hurt anymore. He's totally healed.
Wow.
And that little boy tells him the whole story. And that old man says, "Okay, I'm going to teach you this song. And with this song, this is how we travel. This is how we travel fast. And I'm going to teach you this song. There's going to come a time when you're going to need to prove something. And you'll prove it with this song. So remember that. You'll sing this song when the time comes." And so he's teaching him that song. And those coyotes already turned into little people when they start doctoring him. They're standing around him. And when he sings that song, all of those little people turn back into coyotes, and they start going toward that battle. Even that little boy turned into a coyote, and they all traveled fast like that. As they
Interesting.
get to the battle, the enemy had overwhelmed the Blackfeet. The Blackfeet were being eradicated, and they get there just in a nick of time. And so their spirits, and when they're traveling, those folks can't even see them. They can't see them. And what they're doing is those little people are getting off, and they're shoving a spear up into the horse's underside and causing it to drop. And when a man is pinned there, they just go over and unalive that man.
Mm.
And the Blackfeet are seeing this happen. And that bad uncle is saying, "See that? That's my war medicine. That's how powerful I am."
Mm.
And he's really a fraudster. So
Mhm.
that's all happening. They win the battle. Those little people go back to the camp outside of the main camp. And the old man says, "We're going to wait here for them to come. And once they get back, we'll know what to do from there." So they all come in. They're all successful. They're all happy. They're singing their honor song. All these things are happening. They're celebrating. And then that boy comes out. His dad doesn't even know what his uncle did to him.
Mhm.
And that little boy comes up to his dad. He says, "Dad, what his saying is wrong. It's not true. This is what really happened." And the uncle's standing there. "Oh, don't listen to him. He's just a little kid. He doesn't know what he's saying." And they're about to just kind of not listen to him and just carry on until an old man came out, and he says, "No, no, no, no. You wait. What this young boy says is really serious, and we need to listen to him. We need to hear him out and see." And so that little boy recounts that story for everybody again. And then he starts singing that song.
Oh, wow.
And when he sang that song, all of those coyotes came into the encampment through everybody's legs,
Oh,
and they all
wow.
surrounded that boy. And when he was done singing that song, all of those coyotes turned into little people, and they're all standing around him. And
Wow.
and the chief of those little people said, "What this boy says is true. He was the bravest warrior on that battlefield. We helped him there. We healed him. We took
Wow.
pity on him. We were with him, and everything he says is true. And what's more is this boy, when he got to that battle, he took a Savisberry bush and he wrapped it around his ankle so he couldn't leave the field of battle. And he was the bravest one there. And
Mm.
because of that, we're giving him the title of honorary chief of the little people. And we're
Whoa.
going to give you guys a gift. This gift is a bundle we're going to give you guys. And so those little people gave him all of these gifts. As we understand it, you and I, based off of this conversation, they were given the people control of their life force with these
Wow.
gifts. And so when they gave them those gifts today, what that is, as we're sitting here today, is called the Crazy Dog Society. And it's an
Really?
active society in our tribe. They're a part of all of our holy ceremonies. Like I'm talking to Sundance, they're a part of that. And they
Wow.
have their own sets of ceremonies themselves for their society, their own dances, their own songs.
Wow.
And it's all by them. So we've had this extensive relationship with little people for generations untold.
Wow.
They've been around our people.
That's amazing. I've never heard that before, Rod. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Wow.
they're like, that's why that's the reason why this podcast exists too,
Yeah.
is because a lot of people never really understood how in tune natives were with the universe.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them still don't today, because the only reason we're still here after surviving genocide, after just natural disaster,
Yeah.
you know, of whatever can come, we're still here.
Right.
Now, at one point, the Blackfoot Confederacy, which has technically three bands, but there are four bands. There's a North Piikani, South Piikani, the Bloods, and the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika. So, I mean, of all of us, oh, geez, I just totally forgot what that train of thought was going on
That's
to. But
okay.
anyway, the little people have been with our tribe, not only in these societies, but like say when we sweat.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this time we were sweating, we were done, and we were coming out, we were crawling out of there, and I was surprised because I didn't. I thought those spirits leave when the door is open.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought they leave before that or something, because you
Right.
never really see them. But as we were crawling out, there was two of them sitting in that pit where you put the rocks, and their feet were hanging off of that pit. There was two of them. I just looked at them and kept crawling, like glanced and kept crawling, because you don't stare at them. It's really rude, to stare at like spirits. So you don't do that, or you don't be loud. You don't jump around. None of that. You just be calm. So I just crawled right by him, but I seen him, and when we get out, one of the older guys, he said, "Hey, did you guys see those little people when we were crawling out?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Right by that pit." He said, "Yeah, did you see their little feet just hanging in there?" I said, "Yeah, I see them. They must have been in there with us the whole time." He said, "Yeah, they probably were. They just wanted to sweat with us." But on another time, one of my other friends, he was with a guy that gave him a lot of rights. Rights are the correct way to use life force.
Okay.
You have to have the right to it. Not anybody can just do it, right?
Okay.
And so, anyways, he was sitting in one of them, and this particular man who was running the sweat, had helpers that were little people, and they weren't always around, but when they showed up, you knew they showed up, and he was sitting in there, and he felt these little hands on his leg. Then he felt these little hands on his face, like somebody trying to figure out who you are.
Okay.
Somebody's blind, maybe. Hands about that
Sure.
big, all spread out, just
Oh,
kind of
wow.
feel it. But
Tiny.
yeah, when they were done with it, he talks to that old man and he says, "Hey, there was these little hands. They were touching me on my leg, my back, and then my face. Oh, they're back." He said, "Who's that?" He says, "You know that little man and that little woman that help me sometimes?" He says, "Oh, I think so because they were touching me." "Oh, that's good. I didn't even know they were back." So I
Wow.
think, they're still here. They come
Yeah.
around just whenever, and they have their own way about them. And
Mhm.
what's more about these little people is they look different depending on the physical, geographical region you're in the United States,
Mhm.
wherever they look different. Ours look like 1 foot tall shrunk human beings, like a Native
Mhm.
American from the nine geez, from the 1700s. Imagine a
Okay.
snapshot of the 1700s,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's how they look. And they're all Blackfeet. They have, like, Blackfeet designs,
Really?
like the ones that I see, yeah. So, I mean, there might be different ones. There might be different ones, like, designs, beadwork, whatever, depending on wherever they're at. Like, the Crow might have a different looking one, down past the Yellowstone River, and
Sure.
they're not no place is the same. So in Pennsylvania, they have albatwitch, is what they call little people. That's what you described. You described a miniature Bigfoot, and that's how
Yeah.
their little people look. They call them albatwitch. They actually have an albatwitch day too, where they honor
Really?
them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The one that I saw had reddish hair, like almost auburn brown, so but red, and totally hairy, but sparse, not thick like a dog's coat. So
Yeah.
you could see skin through it basically, except it looked like they were wearing some kind of loincloth or something, but their chests were all bare.
Mhm.
And it's another story, but yeah, it was part of a vision that I had that was a little disturbing because they were running for their lives. It was
Oh,
kinda
no.
sad. Yeah. But I'll tell you
Yep.
about that off camera. Yeah, it's just but it's come to me twice now, and so I try to do a seance every Sunday night and just communicate with spirits in the area, and sometimes I get other things that come through like that, and, for some reason, I know that there's stuff going on this year, spiritually wise, in our area, um, because it's just there's been plenty of signs of it and just things have been happening, the energy's shifting, um, and I know that there's some volcanic stuff that's coming through somewhere nearby me. Um, so a lot of different elementals have been coming around, different ones, um, which I never really had much experience with them, but I'm learning a lot. It's kind of a trial by fire. They're being very gentle with me and kind of letting me get to know them slowly. Like they don't just walk up to me. They like hang around outside for a while and let me see them. And it reminds me of a gentleman that I worked with the state that was Native American. And whenever he would visit someone else that was Native American, he would wait outside their house or their apartment until they noticed him. He would never just go to the door and knock. And that's kind of what these elementals are doing with me is that they just kind of hang around until I really pay attention to them being there and they wait. And then they just come and talk to me and say things. But they're all very unique. They have very specific things they focus on and very specific responsibilities, I guess is a good way to put it. They have different things that they take care of basically in a kind of a communal effort. They just have areas and elements of the world that they specifically monitor and keep an eye on. And, yeah, it's been kinda crazy. So there's been a lot going on late last year and early this year. It's been very busy. There's been a lot of that going on. Um, but yeah, it's fascinating to me.
The elementals are really old too. They're not I think they
Extremely
kinda
old.
I think, like certain ones like Thunder, I
Mhm.
I think he's scary. Like, he
Yeah.
scares me. That guy, that elemental scares me because he's like, how do I say it? Like, he don't care. he's just worried about the long game, taking care of the
Mhm.
earth, making sure things get renewed,
Right. We're
burnt down and
inconsequential.
refreshed.
Yeah.
Yeah, he don't really care about your, "Oh, will you please help me pay my mortgage off? I need this
Right.
brand new
Right.
car. I really love this baseball card." Whatever it is, they don't
Right.
care. It's so
Yep.
for one to even be like humoring you is such an honor. It's
Yeah.
so
No,
unique.
you're very correct. You're very
Mhm,
correct. And you're right. And their attitudes are very different. And I can tell the ones that are the older ones, that's a very good way to explain that. There's some of them, the local spirits that hang around, because I'm in an area that's 55 and older in a
mhm,
community. And so
yeah,
we have a lot of people that have passed on that just hang out and they just
yep,
visit.
mhm.
And they will clear out sometimes, and when they scatter, it's like, "Oh, wow, who's coming over?" You know?
Oh.
"Who's visiting?" Because it's like they just have an air about them, and it's far bigger than their presence
Yeah,
that I can see with my perception. They're far bigger, and
it's a
it's like
lot
they've
of
been
life
here
force.
since time eternal, and it's like,
Mhm,
"Okay," and there's some that never directly face me ever. They just I'm allowed basically to look at them from the side, and then I
mm,
will get messages, but it's like, yeah, I'm not worthy to actually sit and talk with a lot of them, and I can see why, because
yeah,
I'm inconsequential. I don't matter to them, but they're there to let me know they're there for some reason or another, and then usually with time I get answers. But yeah, it's fascinating. I had no idea that there were so many millions of entities in the world that we live in, from other worlds, from our world, um, all the way from under the soil,
yep,
from things, that connect the trees to the mushrooms to the flowers, all of that interconnective life. And then on the spirit realm, by the billions. There's so many different connections that I don't know that I have enough words to explain how many there are and what they do and how they work together. It boggles my mind. It wipes me out sometimes. I get real tired. I gotta take a nap after because it's a lot of information. It's a
well,
lot of details.
it gets even more overwhelming. Um, it is real, it does happen. There is a
Yeah.
thing where we manifest things into existence too. For
That
instance
one
for
s
instance, the
yeah.
rake. Rake
Yes.
started out as creepypasta, now people are having legitimate experiences with rakes.
Yes. Eh,
Yeah, like
the first time I heard that things were being manifest, and I thought, "Oh, crap." Because there's people seriously, when you think of people like,
Yeah,
Stephen King, bless his heart,
mhm, yep,
he's got a great imagination. He really does. And he imagines and fears things that he writes about, and that makes
mhm,
him feel better. And somehow we watch the creepy crap of his stuff and we are intrigued or excited or whatever, or it's thrilling or whatever it is. But it's still creepy stuff. It still
yeah,
is. And I have a friend who loves to talk about creepypasta, and he just cracks me up. And yeah, it's I think that's one of the best examples, honestly, Rod, of the power of thought.
mhm. Yeah, I agree, you're right. I didn't think of that. It is
Because
powerful.
yes, and so for the innocence of the internet and how it began in the '70s and the '50s and how it's morphed into AI, which is supposed to
Mhm,
be a talented skill enhancer that's supposed to help our minds develop and expand, but everything in our mind can develop and expand, good and bad.
yeah,
And so I think your discussion about the very extreme importance of our mind's focus, I think it has a ripple of importance that we don't really fully comprehend. Because I
right,
think if we don't shift our thinking and if we don't pull ourselves out of the mud of inconsequential crap that people think about that really doesn't matter, and the resentments that people carry and the anger people carry, if we don't get away from that, we're gonna have a lot of stuff in our world that we're not gonna wanna deal with. that we're going to have created ourselves just from our shallow thoughts. So
And it's a
I hope,
tough thing because your ego is vibrant,
yes,
alive, thriving. You
and
have to
demanding,
really,
and a child,
yeah,
and very
yeah.
much a child
Mhm.
forever.
And you really have to learn to tamp down your ego when you're thinking about these things, you
Yeah,
know? If you're really trying to open up, your ego has to go away. It can't be there. It just doubt severs the link to the spirit world, and your ego is all
yeah,
about doubt, you know?
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and insecurity.
Yeah, all that
Ego is
stuff.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, truly.
doubt's everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I need to see what's real. Well, how do you prove what's real? What is real? How do you define that? Just because you
Right.
see something, does that make it real? Well, it should if you see it with your eyes. Yeah. My
Something
husband is blind, and he's been a very patient participant in all the psychic stuff that I do. And he is actually very sensitive. He picks up on energies all the time, and he gets what he calls his gut feeling. Well, my gut says, right?
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
he has spirit guides that have been trying to talk to him for years, and then he's getting to where he can quiet his mind enough to hear them periodically. And I love it. He had one the other day that yelled his name in his ear, and he
Whoa.
was like, "Oh, I got to get up." And I said, "What happened?" He said, "One of my spirit guides is yelling at me. It must be important." So I'm getting up. But as a blind person, it's like, so he doesn't see things in the spirit because his brain doesn't focus on sight. It focuses
Mhm.
on sound. So it came to him that way, which I thought was great. That's awesome.
That's
You know,
so interesting.
right?
Yeah.
Very different. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. So other than little people, can you share some other types of interactions that you've had in the paranormal with things that are unusual?
Yeah, with me and myself, okay, so I've had an interaction once with, I don't know what you call that thing, this spirit that makes himself look like people that you know.
Okay.
Uh, so one of them,
Mhm.
I just I don't know what it was, but there was another time when this old woman helped me when I went through a surgery. I had
Mhm.
my appendix rupture when I was in the 4th grade, and this old woman
Ouch.
helped me in that hospital. She was sent there by, my great uncle who was a holy man. And she helped me, she held me. I was, like, trying to hurt
Nice.
myself. I, like, stood up and ripped my
Oh,
stitches. She was holding me
oh,
down. Things
wow.
like that. That was one of them. A good spirit that helped me. Another time, here was this Sweetapy that grabbed my Sweetapy is a water spirit, a elemental. It
Okay.
grabbed my cousin and it pulled her under the water in this green hole, and we got her out, but man, when we got her out, there was a red handprint on her left ankle, about the size of my handprint as a
Oh,
man.
really?
Yeah, so whatever it was see, my great uncle, the holy man, was telling us all, "You guys stay away from that river. Something happened down there, and we're gonna need to have a ceremony down there. Then you kids can go swim again, but till you hear from us, don't go down there."
Mhm.
Geez, it was like a week and a half. That might as well have been 10 years for a little kid.
Well, sure.
I wanted to go swimming I lived on that river, and so I went
Right.
down and I found my cousin, nobody was there, and she came with me, and that's when we went down to the river. I disobeyed their orders, and
Mhm.
and my cousin paid the price, so, I mean, you learn.
Yeah,
So
you do.
that was another time, when I was in boarding school as a little kid, there was these human spirits, these little kids that would always play in that back room. Scared the hell out of us. It was VCT tile on the floor, so you could hear the slap of
Oh,
their
yeah.
feet.
Yeah.
They were barefoot, we could hear them playing back there. Sometimes it'd get bad because there were bed frames back there. They would take those bed frames, and I don't know how they'd do it, but they would move them. It sounded like they were throwing them.
Oh, wow.
But, so those kids that were doing that there was, 2 times when Beta was speaking in those sweat lodges. I listened to him. That's the eagle. There's
Mhm.
an eagle spirit. They're all different, but
Sure.
I've heard 2 of them speak in those ceremonies. there was this hat man. That hat man, he's always attracted to suffering, to pain, to things like that. And my first marriage failed. I was married to a Tlingit up in Alaska. We met at Chemawa Indian School at Indian
Mhm.
High School, boarding school in Oregon.
Mhm.
We had 2 kids, but anyways, we had ended up getting divorced, and I was going through a tough time in my mind with all of it. And that hat man he showed up one night, and he made it where I couldn't move, where I could just see him. I could move my eyes, I could just see him, and he would just stare at me, and he did that to me 3 times that night. First time, it was just him by the by my door, bedroom door. Second time, there was 3 of them. He was in the center, there was a little boy and a little girl on either side of him, and they were halfway to my bed. The
Mm.
third time, I didn't see him anywhere in the room. I just gave up, and I let my eyes relax and drift back to the ceiling. He was on the ceiling as a shadow,
Mm.
and everything else just seemed light. It was so dark
Right.
and he was right above me, just looking down at me, like, right above me. It was so scary, it was so intense that the only way I'd be able to break that was I could barely move my fingertip, and it would, like, brush on my wife's hip, and she would move, and it would wake me up, like, get me out of that somehow.
Mm. Wow.
So there was him, and then all of those alcohol spirits that were in that house, my dad's house, they
Mhm.
took him. That's how his life ended, those alcohol spirits took him,
Wow.
and, uh, they were in that house. They would drink with him in that house. One time, my nephew was, staying across the next door across there's four rooms. He was in one, my dad was in one.
Mhm.
And anyways, that was at my dad's house. My dad told him, he says, "Hey, if I get too loud, just knock on the door and tell me I'll turn down that music." And my nephew had to go to work the next morning, and it was late and it was loud. So he
Mhm.
gets up and he goes in there, and you could hear a man and a woman in there. They were kind of having a little party in his room. To hear him laughing, talking. And he started knocking on that door, and the music was so loud they didn't even hear him. So he just opened it and walked in. And when he walked in, shit, my dad was in there all alone. And he looked to his right and he says, "Oh, hey, my boy, meat." And there was no one there. He's like, "Meat." And then he looked to this room. Well, how about, and shit, there was nobody there. And he started trying to play it off. Like,
Wow.
oh, never mind. Because my dad was ashamed of that. He didn't like that people knew those alcohol spirits would drink with him. He was kind of ashamed of that.
Wow.
But they were there with him. And so, I mean, when I was living there with him, when I got out the military, I was walking to the bathroom one morning, and one of them pushed me into that furnace, and it rubbed all my skin off my shoulder. I was
Ow.
I was pissed. I'm like,
I
"You
would be
piece of
too.
shit. Like, why did you do that? I didn't do nothing to you." But they
Right?
were all in that house, and there was so many of them. There was never just any one. That Hat Man would show up, those alcohol spirits. They were even manifesting beer for us one time. That's the story I call ghost beer. Like,
Oh my
it it
goodness.
it just kept filling back up. They were trying to keep us drunk. They took my dad from me, and I was going on the red road in my life. That's, the direction we're going in. I think they knew that, and they were trying to stop us any way they
Oh.
could, because that same thing happened to my great uncle. That man would show up and he'd leave a bottle on his table every freaking day, one bottle of whiskey, just
Mm.
keeping him drunk. And finally, when he sobered up, those spirits, I imagine those alcohol spirits are pretty sad to see him go, because he ended up being one of the greatest spiritual leaders we've ever had. He's so powerful that the amount of life force that flowed through that man was, again, unimaginable. The things he could do would just, Holly, they would blow your mind. They would change your whole outlook on life.
Oh, no, I
That
believe
was,
that 100%. But I'm really
yeah,
glad that you said the term alcohol spirits because I think that's something we don't talk enough about
yeah,
in general in the paranormal, and that is, um, when you talk about a spirit's existence, I try to explain it this way. So a human body has a brain that creates electricity and a heart that creates electricity that feeds the electrical current that powers our soul or spirit. So when a body is not present and a soul remains, it has to get that electricity from somewhere. And so energy never dies, it just transforms. So I genuinely believe that these spirits that are connected and entwined and wrapped around negative things like alcohol consumption in vast amounts, they're going to do anything they can to keep that source going for their own benefit. So they are not limited. Their ability to be mischievous and tricksters with us is really stronger than I think people ever imagine. I don't think people realize how powerful these spirits and these energies can be when they want their power. They want their energy. You're their snack. You're their energy. When I talk to people about when you feel drained all the time, you got to really take a look at what's going on around you, because there can be spirits draining you that you don't even realize because of a thought that you have or a behavior that you have. It's kind of incredible how strong they can be.
Yeah, you don't even need a Ouija board to call something in. It could just be in your thoughts. We'll call
That's
something
right.
here to you.
That's right.
That's the big thing that I think Ouija boards and the people, that whole genre, that whole whatever it is, that whole world of Ouija board, it's like, if you guys are so curious to reach out to the spirit world, you don't need that to do it. Your
Right.
thoughts will bring it here. And that's what I think about every time I see them doing that. I'm like, yeah, I see you guys are like fulfilling your curiosity, but really, do you
Right.
know what you're doing? Do you know what's really happening there? And
Right.
do you know that you could have the same results just by yourself? So watch your thoughts. I always try to say that. It is true. You could be walking down a crowded street and you're just having these bad thoughts. You're just like thinking, oh, that person that wronged me, I swear, if
Yeah.
something happened to him, I'd be so happy. The moment you thought that, there was somebody that had something attached to them that just walked by you and it jumped on you
Right.
because you invited it by
That's
thinking
right.
like that. Yeah, it's so like sneaky. I don't know how else to say it, because we don't
No,
realize
that's
what's
fair.
happening. Yeah.
That's a great word, because they are sneaky. They're opportunists.
Mhm.
They jump on opportunities whenever they
Well, I
get
mean,
a
why
chance.
wouldn't you? That's all they
Right.
can eat. That's all
It's
they get to eat.
survival.
Yeah, they
Exactly.
don't
And
have
that's
any
the
way to
thing.
sustain.
Right. So they've got to replace their energy somehow.
Mhm.
They got to eat. We got to eat. I mean, they have to eat too. They got to figure out how to survive. Yeah. I don't think people have a clue how much their thoughts are powerful. I think you're right. Your initial statement, I think we're making a circle coming back to that again. But yeah, genuinely, our thoughts are far more powerful than we realize. Definitely.
Mhm.
It's important. So what would you tell someone if someone told you, hey, I'm really struggling. I'm really stuck, and I keep remembering these things that are not helping me. They're my past, and I don't know what to do. I want to think happier thoughts. How do you do that? What would you tell them?
Well, I would say to give it up, to give it away. Don't carry it no more. And if for you, if that means writing all your concerns into a note and simply burning that note, then do that. For me, in my life, what I've done when faced in the same situation was I went to the river with tobacco and I prayed all of my concerns into that tobacco and I gave it to the sweet bees, to the water spirits, and I asked them to handle this the way it was meant to be handled, and I'll accept whatever outcome is to be from that, and I'm not gonna carry the burden anymore. And I let it go. I gave it to them, and I trusted them to help me with it, and it worked.
That's
And,
fantastic. I love
yeah,
that.
I would
I
say
love
do
that.
that.
So if you don't have a river near you, a kiddie pool works. Just
Anything, as long as there's
just
some, it don't even have to be water. You could just go
true.
out in nature all by yourself and bury your prayers. It doesn't
Yep.
matter. Give them away. Don't carry it. Let them handle it, and then you accept how it's meant to be.
Well, and I think one of the things too that's important is people understand humans have always had trouble. We've always
Yeah.
struggled with something or another. It's not new. Your problems are not new. There will be people after you that will have problems just like yours, just like your grandparents had problems, just like you do. And there's always a way. There's always a way to figure out whatever needs to be figured out. There's a way to feel better and to do better and to be better. And letting go of things that don't serve you, I think, is a great step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you
Hey.
think of another story that you might like to share with people about the paranormal today?
Yeah, so these things happen and they're like really, really rare, but they happen. And one of these things that's kind of rare that happens is this. So my wife's cousin, he's like a brother of mine. Um, they were out at the ranch one day and they were working on that garden. They were tending that garden. There's a hill right behind there, and they looked up on that hill and they could see this fire elemental. It was like a man trying to walk on the moon. That's how he was running.
Okay.
Just this really slow. So imagine, he told me, he said, imagine a man on fire trying to run. He said, that's how it looked.
Wow.
He says, when I seen it, I looked back at him, hey, you guys, look. And he says, our aunts, we all looked up there and we watched it. It went over the hill. So those are rare, but they do happen. Sometimes these elements, these elemental spirits will show themselves. I don't know why they do that. I don't. But same guy, same ranch. He was coming back from the lake. And when he was riding back, because he was chasing those horses and they went up in Rocky Coulee and it's hard, so you have to go like all the way around and like they know how to get away. And so he's dealing with all that mess and he's riding up and his horse starts acting funny and he's wondering what the hell's wrong with you, and he like won't go where he wants him to go. He's like shying around.
Hmm.
And finally the only thing you could see up there is a rock. Like there's rocks, but like there's nothing there. And so when he's getting by that rock, he says he looked at it and he said it wasn't a rock. He says it was a person and it was sitting like this. And it
Huh.
had its knees up too. And when he got close to it, it put its head up and it said, hey. When it did that, that horse went to bucking just any old way and he fell off and he hit his head
Ooh.
and like on the ground, not on a rock or nothing. But
But
so
still,
he says,
ow.
yeah, he says when I get up, he says, I'm kind of dazed. I'm wondering the hell's going on. Then did I just see that?
Right.
And so he looks and he goes over to it and it is a rock, but it looked up at him and he knows it was a rock spirit.
Wow.
Same guy, same area.
Really?
I got another one. Same
Okay.
area by the lake, coming back from the lake, but this time he ain't
Mhm.
fooling with horses. He's riding back from the lake. He up on the ridge, he sees his uncle. His uncle used to always run to the lake and then he'd go over because his
Okay.
house is the first house over the hill. Further
Okay.
down's the big ranch. So he sees his uncle training, and so he's gonna catch him and visit with him going up the hill.
Hmm.
His uncle keeps running from him and he's trying to go faster. He's like giving his horse everything.
Mhm.
His uncle keeps running. And he's like, what? So he comes over the hill, his uncle's over, and he's like, wait a minute. He stops and he's looking, and his uncle just started shrinking and then turns and dives right into a dirt like cliff side of the hill, just dives into it. And he
Whoa.
shrunk as he was running. So he knew that it was, one of those rock spirits again. And he thought it was his uncle.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Same area again. I got another story about this
Oh my
one, but
gosh.
so their grandpa, old Leo, when he was young, he was riding out to the lake, Fourhorn Lake, and it was raining. His dad told him, "Don't go out there when it's raining. That thunders is unforgiving. I don't want something to happen to you. I'll
Right.
be all right. I'll make it back. It'll okay." I'm telling you. So he rode out. He gets caught in a thunderstorm and is under an overhang with his horse. and his horse
Mhm.
is standing there, and he's standing by his horse holding him, waiting for that storm. And
Right.
as he looks down, he could see on top of this little knoll, he ends up noticing there's a man standing on it, and he's dressed in full white buckskin. He's even got a war bonnet on,
Oh,
and
wow.
he's got a hand drum. And when he's singing a song, he can hear him singing through the
Mhm.
wind and the rain. He could hear him. He says every time he hits that drum, thunder and lightning would just go from everywhere. Every
Wow.
time that little man would hit that drum. That's a
Wow.
thunder being. That's what we call a thunder being. And he was out
Wow.
there with it. So anyways, I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many spirits that are out there. I'll leave you
Right.
guys with one interesting one for the kind
Okay.
of a food for thought.
Okay.
My wife's grandpa, when he was a little boy, all his elders would tell him this story, and he passed it down to us. So here's this sacred place on our reservation that I'm not going to name it. It's a holy place, and in
Mhm.
this holy place, um, these Blackfeet from long time ago, they found a portal, entrance to a cave. It was so small they had to crawl on their bellies to get in there. So they crawl in, these two warriors, and there's a natural chimney. Once they crawl in, it kind of opens into a chamber, and there's a natural chimney, lights coming in,
Mhm.
and so they can see somewhat. And way in the back, against this wall, they see a figure back there, and they go back and they look, and this carcass, these remains are clutching a holy bundle. Those things where the animals and spirits give you control of their life
Right.
force.
Right.
Is holding it, and he's passed away. And they're looking at him, and it's a Emoyitapi, the Bigfoot is holding this bundle. And so
Wow.
so we all say you're either from the woo-woo camp or you're not, right? We all have these, that's kinda how the
Right.
Bigfoot community is. Well, I'm
Right.
here to tell everybody Bigfoot does know woo in the form of medicine like we understand it,
Yeah.
because he's been found with these things.
Mhm.
He's helped a lot of natives with medicine. You know, they're the physical Bigfoot is there.
Mhm.
There's also that spirit that helps sometimes, can help you, that
Mhm.
spirit with its life force, the way the animals do it, the way we do it. When
Yeah.
we pass, we can give our life force to somebody, like to help them.
Right.
Spirits are really, really powerful. It's almost like they're magic.
Yeah.
We're spirit too. But
Right.
it's one of those things. It's so fascinating. But I would love to leave that thought with you guys.
Yeah. No,
Bigfoot
that's
knows
great.
more than we realize.
I
Mhm.
agree. I agree 100%. Well, thank you for coming on today and chatting with me. I really appreciate it. And if
Yeah.
someone would like to get a hold of you or if they want to check out your podcast, for people that are listening, can you please spell out your podcast name and then where someone can reach you?
Okay, the podcast name is Lodge Tales. It's Lodgetales. It's Lodge Tales is the podcast, and you can find it anywhere, like on Spotify, Amazon, Audible. Anywhere you get podcasts, it's going to be
Okay.
there. Um, as far as what was the other part of the
How,
question?
how
Sorry.
would someone get a hold of you if they want to talk to you or just have a question?
Yeah, you can get a hold of me on. I'm on Facebook. You can
Okay.
find me on there. There's the Lodge Tales Facebook group. You can
Okay.
message me through there. You can comment on any video, podcast, whatever you find, and I'll usually get the message there. Or you can email me directly at lodgetales@gmail.com.
Perfect. Okay.
Whatever.
That's awesome. Well, hang on just one second. I want to just say thank you to everybody that stayed. And as my friend Jay likes to remind me, please hit the like button and follow the podcast so more people can see stuff like this that they're interested in. Thanks for coming today and staying with us. This is Holly from Holly's Pandorium saying thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you again